This is a tutorial and training session for functional range conditioning, PAILs and rails of hip joint extension. PAILs and rails stands for progressive and regressive angular isometric loading. In the functional range system, we use PAILs and rails to achieve three objectives. The first is to increase range of motion, length of tissue, or space within a joint. The second objective is to gain access and control of our end ranges of motion. And the third objective is to improve the health and quality of the connective tissue involved in that joint, ligament, tendon, or muscle. So what is hip extension? Well, simply put, hip extension is a linear movement of the hip joint back away from the body this way. Hip flexion, up, forward, hip extension, kicking backward. So let's get into how to do our PAILs and rails for hip joint extension. The setup we're going to use for hip extension PAILs and rails is done on the floor in a half kneeling position. To make this more comfortable, you might find it helpful to put a pad underneath the knee that's going to be on the floor. So in this case, I've got this rubber mobility pad, but you could roll up a towel or a yoga mat, much the same. Second is you can't be on floor where your knee can easily slide upon it. So like hardwood floor typically doesn't work well for this, but on a yoga mat that grips, that's ideal. For the half kneeling position, we're going to place the knee down on the floor and get into this modified lunge position like this. One leg forward, one leg vertical. When we do our PAILs contractions, our progressive angular isometrics, we're going to be using the muscles on the front side of this thigh to try to pull the leg forward to the room this way. So like I'm trying to pull this pad and glide it across the floor this direction. So our PAILs, we're going to pull the leg forward, contracting muscles on the front of the thigh. For our rails contractions, our regressive angular isometrics, I'm going to try to drive this leg further into hip extension by trying to pull this pad and push it back behind me, contracting all of the muscles on the backside, which is our hamstring and our glute muscles here. So let's get into our stretch first. Now, when we go into this stretch, I'd like to keep the chest quite tall. I'm not going to round over this way. So I'm going to keep my chest very tall and start to stretch the front of this thigh and the hip into extension by leaning my pelvis forward this way. Like I'm trying to pull my pelvis to the front of the room. I can arch my spine a little bit to get a nice stretch upon the front of the thigh here and hip joint. So let's start with a 60 seconds stretch. If you have a minute and a half or 2 minutes, by all means, go longer. So we're taking some deep breaths, again, trying to stretch further by bringing the pelvis to the front of the room, chest stays tall, stretching all this quad, muscle and tendon, the front side of the hip joint, opening the angle here to get the hip further into extension. Take a couple deep breaths. When you do your PAILs and rails contractions, I'd like you to use anywhere from 20 to 80% effort or intensity of contraction. If you're new to doing this, start on the scale that is lower of effort and intensity and work your way up as you go through your reps, all the way up to the ceiling of 80% effort of contraction. So let's get into our PAILs and rails. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to trap some core tension and start to pull into your PAILs. Try to pull that leg to the room in front of you. Try to slide that pad forward, contract all the muscles in through the quad. Hold it tight for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails, try to push the pad backward, going deeper into extension for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deep breath in. Keep your core tight and your chest tall. PAILs, pull the leg forward into your progressive angular isometric, like you're trying to bring your thigh to the front of the room. Contract that quad for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails, contract the hamstring, drive the leg back. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze back here. All that tissue at the back of the hip and thigh for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Deepen the stretch now if you can. Take it further if you can. Deep breath in. Keep your core tight. Apply your PAILs. Pull the leg forward. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Push hard. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails. Drive the leg back deeper into extension. Keep pushing it backward for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, deep in the stretch if you can here. Chest tall, deep breath in. Apply your PAILs. Pull the thigh forward, contract those quads, squeeze hard, push, push, push for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rails, regressive isometric, drive into hip extension, squeeze the back of the thigh, glutes and hamstring for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chest tall, deep breath in, core tight. Apply your PAILs. Squeeze the front of the thigh. Drive your leg to the front of the room. Squeeze hard for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last rails. Drive the leg back behind you into hip extension. Squeeze the glutes and hamstrings. Keep pushing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. All right, come out of that position. If you're new to training PAILs and rails of any joint, in this case hip extension, don't be surprised if it makes your tissues a little bit sore. That's not unusual, as we're training tissues to lengths and ranges of motion of joints that have maybe never been in these positions, and certainly maybe they've never been trained there. So soreness is not unusual as a byproduct of training. Don't be put off by that. That's normal if you're just learning how to do this, and it is a worthy trade-off for the benefits we get out of PAILs and rails training. So that's your tutorial for functional range conditioning, PAILs and rails of hip joint extension.